It's been a long time since I've gone over my positions in the account, and so I just thought I would do that, share with you guys what I'm thinking and why I'm in what I'm in. Okay, this first stock is Natural Gas Services Group. So number one, the first thing you need to know is when I compile a watch list, in general, I am looking for companies that have growing revenue or growing sales. Why? Stock prices move based on an anticipation of future earnings potential, and pretty much that's the only thing you can rely on as a predictor for what price movement is going to be. Using pure technical indicators for trading is pretty much nonsense because prices in the stock market are all determined based on the belief of a company's future prospects, not its past prospects. And so on Natural Gas Services Group, I'm going to turn all of this noise off. And as you can see, over the last year or so, we've had a slow movement up followed by considerable, and the shakeouts did not last very long. That's a shakeout and a consolidation followed by a rally. We get another shakeout, and just by playing connect the dots here on the trend lines, you can see that this stock is in a wedge formation, and it's essentially been moving in a trading range for almost 2 years. And so you have to remember, in the stock market in general, there is a limited amount of shares available for sale. And as the supply of stock gets absorbed, the price moves up until it finds more supply. And so what we're trying to find in the stock price patterns is evidence that what is going on is that supply is being absorbed as rather than it's being pushed into the market. Here is a key thing you can look for. This is a key day right here because we had the stock break through all of this support. It stayed a day and then immediately went back up. What this was doing is this was shaking out sell orders. The market manipulators know where all your stop losses are. And as you look at a chart, you need to think, well, if I'm going to put my stop loss here, everybody else is going to do the same thing. And so what's more important about where you place your stop loss is how the market reacts once it moves through an area of obvious stop losses. And so here we go through, we used to call this clearing the aisles when I was a broker. This is triggering all of the orders, and then within 2 days we have a rally. And it never hits this price again. All of those orders get cleared out. Then it messes around for about a year, and then look at this. It goes back through this same price level at 1750, clears the aisles, consolidates, and then pops back up on earnings. And so here we have what I talk about in the course, this pattern. This is kind of a sloppy cup and handle, but it's still there. As you can see, I entered this trade coming out of this peak right here, and let's see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. I came in right here based off of this little spring. Why? Because the obvious place for your stop losses is going to be right at this level. And what happened? It poked through that level. The next day it went right back up. And so I decided to buy in right in here. And so right now I'm up 4% on this. If you'd been following the posts that I have up with my watch list on it, you would have seen that this has popped up. And so what do we think it's going to do? Well, generally speaking, in my experience, I have seen that when a stock breaks out of a formation like this, it's pretty common that a channel will then form, and that channel is going to be based off of the lows. And so the width of this channel is going to be from here to here. So from $17 to, I wish I had my crosshairs, from $17 to $29 is how much of a move I'm going to expect. So we'll figure there's $15 broken into this. So we should see this stock get to around 42, 45, something like that. But that's not how I trade. What I do is I get into the stock and I ride it for as much of the move as possible until I think it's over. And so that's where we are on Natural Gas Services Group. It closed today at 27.24 and we're up 4%. And I think I've been in this one since early August. Arvino Silver and Gold Mines. Again, this is a company where If you're not in a gold miner right now, then obviously you're not paying attention, because all of the world's currencies are in trouble, including the US dollar. The Congress is totally insane. All of the governments are run by lunatics, with maybe the exception of Russia. And so let's take a look and see what is on this chart that would have given us a clue that something was about to happen. So we have this area here. Sometimes this is called a saucer. I like to call them smiles. Then you have a shakeout right in the middle of it. So if you were trading this, where do you think your stop losses would have been for people playing this rally? Well, right in here, right? Maybe right through here, around 84 cents, around $1, somewhere in that area. And look what the market does. When a stock is under accumulation, it will clear out the stops first before it moves higher. Why? Because the manipulators are trying to shake out the weak holders. If you're a weak holder, you're not in a trade based on any conviction about what is going on. You're just in there gambling, which is what most of you do, which is why most of you are losing money. So the conviction that I look for in the market is I'm trying to figure out what the strong hands are doing. Now, I play growth stocks because that also gives me a little bit of fundamental insurance that even if I make a mistake on a particular trade, probably the stock is still going to go up in value. But if you can catch what the manipulators are doing, you really don't even have to worry about that. But it's easier to work with growth stocks. Okay, so anyway, we see that we come through a nice period of a base, we get a rally, and then immediately we have a shakeout. And this shakeout lasts for a full quarter. We have 3 months worth of shakeout going on here. This one would have been an ideal buy if it had been on your watch list right here. Why? You have your rally, you go into a saucer, then you have a shakeout, and you have a consolidation, and then it immediately pops up off that bottom. And so what that tells you is that the strong hands are manipulating this market downward. They want you to think, get out of this stock. Now, how do I know that to be the case? Because when the manipulators aren't manipulating a stock down, when it's just falling down on its own, it continues to fall. It doesn't fall and then consolidate, and almost never will it rally. Now, the other thing I want to show you is that this purple line right here, and what this is a running total of all of the volume numbers that is either added or subtracted as the stock trades, depending on what the price action is. So when the price closes up, you add the volume. When the price closes down, you subtract the volume. And what this does is it allows you to get another view as to what is going on in the market, so you can determine whether absorption is taking place or not. When a market is undergoing absorption, typically your on-balance volume and your price volume trend will not make new lows as the price makes new lows. If you have a rising on-balance volume or a rising price volume trend, or even a steady one as the price makes new lows, that is a very good indication that the market is actually under absorption. And so as we see here, price made a low on huge volume, so we had a whole lot of pressure here trying to push this stock down, but the price didn't really move that much. I mean, look at this volume spike here on November 15th, 2024. I mean, it's huge. It's 13 million shares on a stock that, on any given day trades 1 or 2 million shares. The price closed down, but the stock didn't move that much. And you would think with all of this volume, you would have gotten a little bit more movement. Price volume trend went down. Then the price goes sideways. Your volume trend moves sideways. Shakes down. It makes a new low here, but it really didn't make a new low on this. So this is an area that makes you think that there's absorption going on here rather than selling. Had this continued to go low, I would not have considered buying here. But because this is moving steady, that tells me regardless of what the price is doing, the volume is not really agreeing. And then of course we pop up, we get another shakeout. Now how do I know that this is just a shakeout? So it lasted a few days and immediately resumed the trend. Price likes to go back and touch previous resistance and support levels, and so when you see that, you can see that what's going on is really it's just trying to establish a new trend. You see this low here touches the highs of this previous buy point. So it'll rally, it'll come back, it'll kiss, it'll rally, it'll come back, and look, it comes right into this area again. Why? Because this is naturally where people are going to have their stop losses. And so if you want to accumulate as much stock as possible, then you want to run their stops, trigger their sell orders, so then you can buy the stock. And then they run it up, and then it consolidates, and then it shakes out, right? See, here's another shakeout. The aisles were cleared. Let me see if I can get this to right here. They cleared the aisles right here. Why? Because this is an obvious price for stop losses. So clear the aisles, run it back up. And so we are in Arvino silver and gold mines. Now here's another one, I am gold. And again, whether or not you think gold is going to go up, these stocks are still sound on their technicals and on their revenue growth. So here we have I am gold, mostly moving sideways, a lot of consolidation. But how do I know that this is absorption? Because the price volume trend is rising through this area. And so what that tells me is there's more buying volume going into the market than selling volume. Now let's go ahead and turn that off. Okay, now we turn off all of the noise. Now let's take a look and see how many areas, shakeouts, do we see on this chart. Let me get my pen back. There's a shakeout. We dip below, following the next day, rally. And we come back through here and we get a kiss. This is a kiss of this previous level, followed by a rally. Then we get another consolidation area, followed by this huge rally. Now, I actually bought this stock, I believe, on this day here out of this little flag, and so probably May 25th, May 26th, and we're up 50% off of this trade. Now, what am I looking for to get out of this one? Well, I believe the price of gold is going to continue to go up. There's no question that the government is going out of its way to destroy the dollar, and so the fundamentals are pretty strong on this. However, if I start seeing these little peaks followed by failures on the top side of the market, that's an indication that the stock is being unloaded. We don't have that yet. Okay, SB Manufacturing and Electronics Corp. Here we have another growth stock. By the way, I have no idea what most of these companies do, except for the miners, because if it's a gold mine, I mean, it's a gold mine, obviously. So this stock had its original breakout. Well, let me rephrase that. Didn't have a breakout, it had a shakeout. This is a shakeout. We had this long consolidation. We have an area where a few points it breaks through to clean up any orders that are sell orders through here. And then it cleans through again, taking out this whole area, kissing this former area here at this price level, consolidates for a week, and then pops up, giving you a solid break of the trend. Meanwhile, the price volume trend is moving sideways as price goes down. Typically, when you see this, you're looking at absorption. Another thing you can see on this chart is through this whole period, you have small spikes in volume. As we come out of a heavy volume area back in 2024, we go into a low volume area and we move back into a heavy volume area as the price goes up. This is indicative of manipulation activity. We have this same thing here over the last 2 months. So through this whole period here, we have increasing volume on the day it comes down, going into very low volume, followed by a rise in volume on its way up. I would not be surprised if we see another little shakeout of this stock, kind of like that, before it goes. However, again, this is a growth stock and it is acting like it's under accumulation. Rush Street Interactive, I've actually traded in and out of this a few times. The first time I bought Rush Street was back here. I wrote it up into this area. I didn't like this activity, so I got out, and then of course we see this huge shakeout through here, and I went ahead and bought back into it based on this consolidation area right here. This is fairly bullish, so we will see. As you can see, the indication on the price volume trend is that this one's going to keep going up. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Okay, Zion Natural Gas. This one is a pure gamble. I'm not going to really talk much about this. This was a stock that I bought based on somebody's stock tip. The action going on with this stock does show you that there's some manipulation activity going on. The problem you have with penny stocks is that almost all trading that takes place in a penny stock is manipulation. So it's very hard to read penny stocks reliably because the whole penny stock market is nothing but manipulation. So I don't know what this one is going to do. Probably I will lose money on it because I violated my rules. This stock is not in my normal screening watch list of a growth stock. This one is a pure gamble. However, having said that, this appears to be a shakeout followed by a rally, right? It looks like we're going through another shakeout. I would expect most of the stop losses in this stock to be down around this level. So this thing may get all the way back down to 7 cents again before it rallies. But as I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's just a pure gamble. Okay, Ubiquiti. This is another one that I've traded in and out of a few times. My original purchase on this one was back in this area over here. And then I don't recall when I got out, probably somewhere in here. So I had a pretty good run on this one. But what I want to show you what's going on with it now is here we have this nice saucer area, right? We get a shakeout. Like as you're looking at the chart, you want to ask yourself, where is the obvious place for stop losses to be? Well, below this level here is a pretty obvious place. And so the price goes up. We have this huge key day followed by a sell-off, and then the price goes into this trough area, and we get another huge aisle clearing here, which then fills this gap on the chart, and it only makes that low for a day, and it's turned around and it hasn't looked back since, with the exception of another aisle clearing right here. So when you see these spikes down followed by a rally within a few days, that is very indicative of manipulation activity in order to run the price up. And as we look, we can see our price volume trend is more or less sideways here. Then we get our shakeout, and the next day it starts moving up again. So this is all indicative of a stock that is under accumulation. And of course, we get a secondary base coming through here, right? This would be called a cup and handle by some people, but I prefer, shakeouts and bases, because when you learn to recognize them, they get a lot easier to trade. And we're up 18% on this one. Okay, here again we have another cup and handle or several bases forming. Here's your smile, here's your shakeout, followed by a brief consolidation and then a rally and then a gap. Then you get another smile, another base forming, followed by a rally, another shakeout, and now we're off to the races. I purchased this one, I don't remember actually, I think right in here, but I'm not positive. But let's take a look at the activity we have going on with this. Here's your established downtrend, if you can call it that. But then what happens? Stock goes into a wedge, but you don't really need all of this if you can understand. You want to think about the stock market in terms of what are the manipulators doing? Is it running stops and then going up, and then running stops and then going up, and then running stops and then going up? When you see this kind of activity, that is indicative that a stock is undergoing accumulation. Now, if you see back here, I did a video on this one before. I actually bought this stock in here, and I wrote it up and sold it out somewhere in this general area. So this isn't the first time I've traded AppLoving. And again, here we are, cup, handle, rally, or consolidation, shakeout, consolidation, shakeout. AGIO Pharmaceuticals. I get screwed a lot in pharmaceutical companies because these things are ripe for market manipulation. I'm not a big fan of them. However, now that I've said that, here I am in one. We have a lot of activity going through here. We have this huge area that I would call a shakeout. We have cleared the aisles now back for 2 years. We come out of that shakeout, we get another shakeout. Look at this huge day right here. Huge day, huge volume. What happens the next day? It's up. So this is a spring. This looks like a stock that is getting ready to pop crazy. Why? Because all of this activity right here cleared out those stop losses that people would have put there, and it cleared out any stop losses that would have been sitting here. So all of the sell orders in the market for this stock up until that point were run on that day. Now, if this stock had actually had a broken back, it would have cleared out all those sell orders and it would have closed down, then it would have consolidated and it would have went down again. But what did it actually do? Think about the chart that you're reading as to what is actually going on. What is the market trying to tell me? So we cleared all of the aisles and it closed up. It closed in the upper range. Now, if there was tons of sell pressure on this day, you would not expect that. Then we consolidate, then we rally, and then, once more for good measure, we get another aisle clearing through here because there's going to be a lot of sell orders right here for people who bought this day. Now, technically this thing is super strong, but because this is a biotech, there's a pretty good chance that it's just another market manipulation and I'm about to get suckered on it. But we have our smile, we have another base, we're forming a larger base right now. We just had a shakeout out of this base. And I may be a little early on this buy. Probably you don't really want to buy this one until you get a break above this line. But I'm already in it. Actually, I think I've been in this one a while. I believe I bought this coming out of here, but I don't remember. Okay, Monolithic Power. Remember back in April, we had all of this shakeout activity. You see this over and over again on the charts. But it was all baloney. Remember, 90% of what you hear in the financial news is baloney. Watch what the charts do. If you listen to the financial news, you will never buy any stock because the bottom line is everything is going to hell all the time according to them. Now, I will tell you this, they're mostly right. Everything is going to hell, but that doesn't mean that all of the stocks are going to go to hell at the same time. Companies that are making money are still making money. Anyway, so here with Monolithic Power, you have this huge shakeout, consolidation over a couple of days, and then immediately starts going up. Goes into another consolidation, goes up. Now we're consolidating again. It's been my experience that you will get 4 or 5 of these little patterns before a run is over. So this is 1, 2, we should get a couple more before this is done. And that's why I'm in that. Okay, Royalty Gold, this is another gold stock. And I just want to show you how these patterns set up. Here's a consolidation. This is a base. This whole area here is one big happy base. We have the volume pattern I like to see, which is a spike followed by a lull in volume followed by another spike. Then we come up and we go back into another small base. We get a shakeout here. Clear the aisles, right? Before you take a stock up, you have to eliminate all of the stock losses. You got to get all the weak hands out of the market. And so it did it here, it did it here, it did it here, and then it's off to the races. I actually got into this one a little late. I'm up 12%. This probably was not such a good move with this stock, but time will tell. If gold keeps going up, this one probably going to keep going up too. If I see too much activity where this thing starts spiking up and falling down and spiking up and falling down, that tells me the run is over. You interpret the beginnings of a bear market the same way you interpret the beginnings of a bull market. You just flip the chart upside down. It looks almost exactly the same. Okay, X4 Pharmaceuticals. This is another one that is a gamble. Pure gamble. And to be honest with you, I don't even know how I found this stock. But when I saw the chart, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this one out. Now, this company, unlike most pharmaceutical companies that are early stage, actually has some revenue. So it does have revenue growth. But what's going on with it? So we have a solid downtrend. Ain't no question about that, except this is in the wrong place. There you go. Here's your solid downtrend. You have a few attempts to rally that then fail, right? Here's a rally, fails. You get the spike up, and then literally the next day it's down, 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 down. This is a stock that's in distribution. You have a stock reverse split here. Reverse splits are almost always death for a stock. We get into this area here at $1.63 and we start to move sideways. We rally, we hit the trend, and we bounce off, but we don't make a new low. Instead of making a new low, it spikes up, breaks the trend, consolidates, spikes again, consolidates again. So here's what I'm looking for on this stock, and it may not do it. Here's a head. We're looking to see if another shoulder forms. Now, where are all the stop loss orders going to be at on this stock? Most people are going to have their stop losses somewhere around the $2.70 level. I would not be surprised at all if we got a big day on this stock that flushed everybody. If we came down on a big spike all the way down to here and then closed back on the up level. If you see that, a spike down followed by a rally to the upside, that's about as bullish as you can possibly get. That means they have cleared the aisles and now they're going to take the stock higher. Again, This is extremely speculative on this particular stock. I'm trading this almost exclusively based on this pattern here and the fact that they finally have turned in a quarter where they actually have sales. But again, this could all just be manipulation, and you can get screwed on it. NPK, National Presto Industries. I've traded in and out of this stock a few times too. Here's your huge shakeout, followed by a high level base, followed by a breakout a couple of days ago, right? Here's your aisle clearing right here. We dip down, we take out all of the stop loss orders that are going to be in here, and then they take the market higher. Look, here's another aisle clearing. What happens the next day? That's an aisle clearing. What they're trying to do is they're trying to shake the weak holders out of the market before they take the stock up. This is another cup and handle style formation. Life 360, this is a product that I actually used at one point. I don't think I do. I think my wife still does. Look at this again. Huge shakeout. Again, back in April. And what happened back in April? We have this area here, huge shakeout. But after a couple of days, price goes back up. There's no conviction in these sellers. This whole thing was designed to trigger all of the stop losses that are running right through here. And then subsequently, price is rallying. I'm a little late on this stock. Okay, I probably should not have bought this one. Why did I buy it? When you get into this consolidation area here, this looks like pure manipulation to me. You have this tight consolidation pattern followed by squirt, a shakeout to trigger all of these stops, and then 2 days of a rally followed by another squirt to take all of these stops out. I believe I bought this in here, but I'm not positive. Anyway, we're up 10%. This kind of activity is extremely bullish. The other thing is that fundamentally I look for stocks that have low floats. Most of the stocks that I own have less than 50 million shares. Why? Well, because in order for the price to go up, you have to absorb all of the shares in the market, and that's what pushes the price up. So if you have a stock that has 800 bazillion shares, it takes a lot of money to move that stock, where a smaller stock, they move a little bit easier. Again, we have similar patterns here. This whole thing is a long base made up of shakeouts to accumulate stock, followed by another base, and then we have your third shakeout, and price has moved up. This stock should have been bought right here. Again, this is another one I'm a little late on. So here we're looking at, this is probably the first base out of the official breakout. Where's it going to go? I don't know, but you want to think like, where are the stop losses going to be? They're going to be somewhere in here. So if we see a big day where we penetrate this price level and then we close at the high, that's about as bullish as you can get on this stock. Dave, this is one that I have traded in and out of a few times in the past. Again, back in April, huge shakeout followed by a slight consolidation, and then we're off to the races. Here we have an all-time high followed by a shakeout, but we didn't penetrate this other area. Then we had a small rally. We didn't make a new high. So this is can be a troubling consolidation. But then we get into an earnings miss right here. Huge volume. Normally this thing trades a couple 100,000 shares a day. On this earnings miss, it trades 3 million shares almost. But what does it do? If that earnings miss was significant for the company and meant death for the company, you would expect not only would you have your big day here, but you would blow through this level and then continue going down. Well, what is it that actually happened? We came down, we cleared the aisles, and then we had a quick little rally. Then we cleared the aisles, and then we pull down, we pop up, and we've hit this area here. And so now what I would expect to see is maybe one more aisle clearing, and then we should start a new trend up. Now there's no way to know that that's going to happen. It may happen, it may not happen. But as I look at this chart and I'm reading this activity, this looks to me like it's massive amounts of accumulation going on here that is being masked as volatility. But this is screaming accumulation. Now, there's one thing in here that makes me a little worried, and that is my price volume trend is not making new highs. So this is not the strongest chart in the book based on that. If you had this same pattern, but this was aimed up, that is something you might want to weigh into pretty heavily. Okay, moving on. Okay, Sellus Investment Corporation. Here's your huge shakeout again back in April, followed by a consolidation, followed by a rally. We had another shakeout. How do I know this is a shakeout? Because we immediately rallied afterwards. Then we made a peak, and then all of this noise in here is after the Fed announced their interest rates, a decision that they're threatening to cut rates by a half a percentage point or something. I don't really pay attention to what the Fed does. I'm not smart enough to understand it anyway, and 90% of it's bullshit. So what am I looking for on this chart? I'm watching an aisle clearing go on right here, okay? Does it mean that this stock is over? It may be. I may take a loss on this one of 6%. However, what I want to show you is that this company has already announced a 13-cent dividend that's going to get paid on the prior month, 13 cents. The month before that, 13 cents. If we go all the way back 2 years, you got a 13-cent dividend on this thing. So whatever this company does, every month they're going to pay you 13 cents. Now, if you do the math on that, on a stock that's trading at $14 a share, that is almost 12% a year in dividend income alone. So do I really care whether this stock goes up or down or just moves sideways? Not really. I don't. So as long as they keep paying that dividend, that's really the only thing I care about. So I'm down 6% now, right? So this stock is going to have to drop another couple bucks, and I'm still at break even if I stay in it a year. Now, will I do that? Probably not. I'll probably stay in it as long as they keep paying the dividend, though. But this price activity, which is the main reason for showing you the chart, is not bearish. Okay, this price activity is actually bullish. When does this become bearish? It becomes bearish if we clear the aisles one day and then don't bounce back into an immediate rally. As long as this thing stays priced around $13 a share, if you sit in it, you're going to get 12% a year anyway. And so what we're seeing is massive amounts of accumulation around this $13 level right in here. Why? Well, because a 12% return is pretty good. Okay, Matala royalty. I should not have bought this one. I'm not telling you to sell it if you bought it, but here's your consolidation. Here's another shakeout. You move sideways, you get another shakeout. You have another shakeout. This thing is full of shakeouts. This stock was being aggressively manipulated through here. It doesn't look as strong to me through here. I bought it late. Anyone who is looking at buying this stock, you should have bought it right here. But it's on the list. Okay, QXO. I have no idea why I bought this one. I mean, I'm looking at it right now and I'm trying to figure it out. So we're not going to talk about this other than to say it does appear that we had a long base all the way through this period and that we're in a secondary base right now. Let's see. They are making money, otherwise they wouldn't be on my list. One of the challenges you get with trying to look at charts is the scaling is different depending on the price. We're just going to move on from that one. Newmont Mining. I bought Newmont Mining because Newmont is the only miner in the S&P 500, and they had this huge cup and handle pattern in early 2025, shakeout, base, breakout, shakeout after the base, followed by a solid rally. Most of the miners that I have are speculative companies. Newmont, not so much. I did buy it a little late, but that's because I typically buy low float stocks, and Newmont isn't really in that category. Okay, Micron I just added a while back. If you'd been paying attention to my watch list that I have posted in my school group, Painless Trader, you could have seen this. Now, Micron is not a low float stock. Micron is a huge company. Again, we have this giant shakeout that took place with many companies back in April, right? Think of all of the people that were holding Micron that got taken out of their positions during this fiasco here. Then we have this little area right here, nice base consolidation, followed by a shakeout right in here where we go back and we touch the prior highs back here. This is a kiss, and we get a rally. And you get another small shakeout. I bought this stock on the breakout of this shakeout, and we're up 24%. Now, let's turn all of this noise off, because you don't really need all of this stuff if you're just paying attention to the price action. Well, volume helps too, but you can actually almost trade a stock completely based on what the price does if you understand what the activity is showing you. And here you go, you have a nice bull wedge. Typically with a bull wedge, you want to see that volume drops through this time period, and you know, it kind of does. This isn't the best example of it, but usually if your old school chart formation is going to work, during the period the formation is coming up, you will have less and less volume before you have a breakout. And here we have a huge spike in volume the other day. So we're up 24% on Micron. Shopify, again, here's that huge shakeout that took place in the market back in April. This really is kind of a head and shoulders formation, and you see it over and over again on many charts. You would have bought this one in here. I didn't. Here we have another consolidation. We have a shakeout where they're clearing the aisles because a lot of stop losses are going to be right here. And so you're justified in having bought this one right in here, which is when I did it. And what was that, last week, I guess? Full Truck Alliance, I traded this one a while back and made some money off of it. I think I bought it off of this shakeout, and I don't remember when I sold it, probably somewhere in here. But look at this again in April, huge shakeout. There's another little shakeout. We go into a consolidation area, followed by this other huge shakeout, right? Look at this. Look at all of the aisle clearing activity going on here. I will be shocked if this stock doesn't make significant new highs. You have a nice smile in volume, right? We go into the shakeout, we have a spike, volume dries up, price moves sideways, volume spikes again on this shakeout, but what does the stock do? It goes up. So we are above this area of consolidation. I would not be surprised at all if there was another shakeout through here. This is a Chinese stock, by the way, so, you know, if you trust the Chinese. I don't, which is why I only have 100 shares of it. Okay, this is another one that has a nice long buildup of this same cup and handle pattern and another shakeout. The only thing that concerns me about this is that the money stream is going down. Other than that, this pattern looks pretty good. Nice scoop, rally, consolidation. Again, when you have these shakeouts and it's not followed by subsequent selling activity, that's a pretty good indication that a stock is under accumulation. Here we go again. This is American Superconductor. We have this nice consolidation. This is actually probably a bull flag or bull pennant. There's a shakeout and we're up. I believe I just bought this one a couple days ago. Talon Energy Corporation. Again, this have almost the same pattern. Shakeout, shakeout. Here's your cup, there's your handle, there's a breakout, followed by another consolidation area and a little rally. I'm a little late on this one. I've bought this a little high. Ampris Technologies. Again, there's your shakeout. There's a consolidation. That's a cup. Goes into another consolidation. You would have been justified buying this here. I didn't. Followed by another little mid-level saucer in this consolidation. And the buy on this one was triggered a few days ago, and it's up 8% already. And so that is every stock that is currently in my account. That's not every stock that I'm watching. And so thank you for listening. I hope you learned something.